Hello, it's InTheCage Poland. It's Jack here. I'm together with Steve Bruno, former UFC fighter and actual striking coach in American Top Team Florida. Nice to have you here, Steve.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You will be in the corner of KSW middleweight champion Scott Askam in his fight versus Mamed Khalidov. It's not your first time cornering Scott. I wanted to ask, what is your memory from the last time?
It was a war. It was stuck to the game plan and all the cardio and the whole camp. You know, every little moment that I pushed him in camp and that the team pushed him in camp, if we pushed him 1% less, he might not have won that fight. It took a lot of honest, hard work, and we just repeated that for the same fight. But what I remember particularly about that fight is just how intense it was, how passionate the crowd was, and how Scott earned the favor of the fans, which I thought was really cool, even though Materla is from Poland. So, I really remember the fans' energy, the live music. Man, there's so many cool things for KSW. There's so many amazing moments that it's hard to pinpoint one of them, you know?
Besides being a trainer, can I name you a fan of KSW? Do you like the stuff they are doing, the way they deliver emotions, and the whole experience to the fans and to the people?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of live music. It feels like it has the energy of a live rock show, and if you're really following close attention to the production, they even sync the music with the entrances and the fighters' name. The music even intensifies. They do a really good job. And I like Gamrocie, Mateusz Gamrocie. I'm a big fan. Soldica, am I pronouncing that right? Yeah. He's a superstar. KSW, there's a lot of fighters that I look forward to seeing, even though I'm here for Scott and the ATT guys, Mikhail. Yeah.
How different is Mamed Khalidov style combining two styles of Michał Materla or Marcin Wojcik? Was it harder to prepare for that guy?
He has a unique style, so for this camp in particular, we didn't do anything different. We just focused on not making mistakes. Scott, we are very confident in Scott as coaches. I'm not his only coach, but we're confident in Scott's abilities. And if he were to have trouble in this fight, it would be because of a mistake that Scott made and not something that his opponent did well. This fight we worked on movement. How does Scott move from point A to point B? We worked on his stance. As far as conditioning goes, and as long as he's the most superbly conditioned athlete at American Top Team, thanks to our great program. So this fight, the focus of the camp was just not to make mistakes, man, to be as sharp as possible, to be accountable for the mistakes when they were made. But yeah, I just worked on being a better version of Scott.
In last fight, there was a moment during some stand-up fighting versus Materla when Materla hit Scott with some hard shots. How can you describe that moment? Did you tell anything special to Scott after it happened? Did you give him some advice?
Yeah, I remember being honest with him, if you might have lost that round, I remember saying something particular like that. But I remember when he got knocked down, I saw Scott's foot hook into the half guard, and I knew that he was going to be okay. It's a special fighter. Scott's a special fighter, and one of the main reasons that if you look at Scott's career and you look at his opponent's career, Scott has come back in fights. He has won fights where he has had trouble. He has been in some very bad spots. To come back and not only win but to finish. So, he's very, very durable on top of being very skilled, and he could take a shot.
That's for sure. We've seen this already in the KSW. Another fighter from American Top Team here on the card, Michael Dubois. He's training in American Top Team for not long, I guess. When he was fighting last time on KSW, I'm not sure he was representing ATT. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. To be honest, I'm just starting to get to know him. In the last few weeks, we started working together. I think he's just starting to adjust to the ATT method. And when I say that, I say that with total confidence. We are the best team right now. There is nothing random about anything we do in that gym. Everything is structured. There's a total method. There's a curriculum to follow. Mikhail is new to this, and he's already reaping the benefits, because not only having all the knowledge and experience of the coaches, he gets to spar against the best fighters in the world. That's what I feel makes a big difference in these camps, where, you know, I don't know what goes on in Scott's opponent's camp, but we make sure to push Scott. We make sure to provide him with challenging rounds, you know, rounds that he could potentially lose against dangerous sparring partners. He's constantly taken out of his comfort zone, and Mikhail is learning that too. You know, he's starting to adjust to the method, and the level of training at American Top Team is so high. You know, after he wins tomorrow, he's going to continue to stay with us and evolve more and more from there. So,
is it a good thing for the fans and for the fighters that fight between Scott Askam and Mamed Khalidov will last maximum 3 rounds, not 5 rounds as the championship fights?
Yeah, you know, that's something that I thought about. I thought just that was strange, because it's almost like, why would someone not want the 5 rounds? You know, if it's non-title, I mean, it's an exhibition. If that's what it took, to my understanding, I'm new to Scott's opponent, so I know he's very popular. You know, and Scott wants that spot. You know, he wants that spot. So to get that spot, if he would only accept a 3-round fight, then so be it. We'll take it. And I guess to get the legend to come out of retirement, you know, we had to agree to 3 rounds. I don't know all the details, but when Scott's fighting, he's not going to fight any different if it was a 3-round fight, a 5-round fight, a 12-round fight. It doesn't matter. When he's in there, he's looking for opportunities to end the fight and making opportunities to fight. He doesn't fight a 3-round pace or a 5-round pace. He fights a Scott pace, you know, and that's what Khalidov does not understand. Whether it's 3 rounds or 5 rounds, it doesn't matter. Scott is a very fast starter, and he keeps that pace. He keeps the volume. There's nowhere to run. You know, it won't matter about the round. So if 3 rounds, we could do it, but Scott's more than willing to fight for 5.
How long have you been working together with Scott Askam?
Hold on. Scott, how long have we been working together? More than 2 years? More than 2 years. More than 2 years. Closer to 3 years.
It's basically whole Scott's KSW history.
Wait, say that again?
So it's like basically the whole Scott's KSW experience history.
Yeah, I like with no ego. Like, I helped him out a lot. Like, I know he did. Like, he was a counter fighter before he came here, and then you know, he's a changed man, like, with the way he fights. He's so aggressive and he's so defensively in sync. So yeah, the KSW version of Scott Askam would be like a result of a lot of the training that I put him through. I could say that. Yeah.
Do you think, theoretically, let's say, if Scott will return to UFC, will he gain the spot in top 15?
Yeah, top 15, no doubt. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like with respect to Scott's ability and the UFC ability, and just to keep things real. Like, I'm not going to go and say, oh, he'd be a top 5 guy, but look, straight up top 10, and get used to like that UFC exposure, you know. But like, it's different fighting out there. But I think Scott really has found a home in KSW for now, and he's starting to identify with the fans. You know, I feel he could be an asset to any organization in the world, but KSW seems to be making Scott happy, and that's what he likes. But yeah, he could be a threat. I would say top 10 UFC, definitely.
Do people in America and United States know KSW? Maybe some MMA fans are following the organization, because there are not so many fighters from abroad, especially from the America. We got some guys from England, we got some guys from France, but I know the mark of KSW is known around the world, also because of Mariusz Pudzianowski, the strongest man in the world, who was fighting there. So tell me, when you talk with your friends, with your MMA people in your country, maybe not the people who visited Poland to be together with Scots on the KSW. How do they react to KSW?
Well, I live in South Florida. It's a unique community because it's like the highest concentration of UFC fighters between our gym and the Fight Sports and Henry Hoof's team. There's so many hundreds of UFC guys, Bellator guys. So, I mean, we all know the fights, but as far as like, if anyone asks me what I'm doing, I'm like, I'm going to KSW. They're like, oh, what's that? I'm like, well, you know what UFC is? They're like, yeah. I'm like, it's bigger than UFC in Poland and the production is better. That's what I tell them straight up, because I feel like it is. I mean, I think that if it gets a little more exposure, and then maybe you would need an American name to make KSW popular. You know what I mean? There's some like American fighters that are like foaming at the mouth at a chance to fight here. And
is there any guy, a name you can imagine as a KSW fighter? Maybe some like UFC vet who is doing well on.
Yeah, but outside of the UFC, at American Top Team, there's always so many guys coming through the pipeline of training that there's guys that I know as a coach and my 20 years experience that could do damage, but they're not even in UFC yet. They're just kind of. I have some fighters that are at the 5-0 and 6-0 mark that are having a hard time getting signed. So they're having to take fights in like Dagestan and Kyrgyzstan. I think a huge asset would be Haider Hassan. He's a UFC veteran, and I'm a little partial to him because he's a buddy of mine. But again, if I were to mention any names of people I saw fit, you would have never heard of them because unless you fought in UFC or Bellator, no one's going to know who you are in America. To be an American mainstream fan, you would have to be a UFC fighter or a Bellator, but there's a lot of guys that are right on that 5-0, 6-0 mark that are also NCAA wrestling, and KSW is not it's very striking based, but like I think if someone with some NCAA wrestling skills would come in here, I think they could do some damage, but the thing is it's not like a fan-friendly style, I think what KSW does well is the matchups. I don't know who their matchmaker is, but
I can tell you.
Yeah, I know. It's
even point the guy.
Yeah,
it's not right here, but I know.
Yeah, the fights are balanced. You never see the fans are never really disappointed. They've done a good job. You just have to be like really particular about which Americans to get in there. But I think you get one or two Americans. You get like a attractive female fighter too from America, get something the American fans could identify with in KSW, and I think that would help out a lot, especially with the live band. I think that would get over well with the fans.
What do you think about guys like Martin Ford fighting in MMA? Do you think it's a good thing for the sport or not?
Yeah, man. Like, dude, this sport is a freak show. You know what I mean? There's some fights that look at even Scott's fight. Look what he did to Materla. That's like disturbing. You know what I mean? Like let's be real. Like that someone's brain is getting shut off. You know what I mean? If you could have a little fun and make it more of a spectacle and look, you could look through the whole undercard of a KSW show, but imagine seeing Martin Ford fight. You would never forget that for the rest of your life. So I'm all for it, If you want to do it the right way and train, see Pujanowski, I know personally because he trained at ATT, he was such a hard worker, But it would be fun to see Martin Ford not fight like a skilled fighter, but bring in another guy with 0 fights, another heavyweight, and train
super heavyweight,
yeah, train for a few months, and that would be fun. The sport, as far as there's I don't want to. There's not on the American level. KSW is very nice about the opponents being respectful to each other, but in UFC and a lot of the American fighters, there's no dignity left. Everyone is so rude. The presence of Twitter. I even trained some female fighters that are showing half their body in every Instagram post. So Martin Ford being in a big show, to me, that's nothing. To me, that would be a step in the right direction. And get people talking less shit about Twitter and make it a visual spectacle. I think that would be cool, man. I'd watch him fight. He could come to ADT and work with us if he wants. we have enough. He could be welcome to the freak show, man.
Thank you very much, Steve. And you also mentioned about Roberto Soldic,
Yeah.
who is a KSW welterweight champion. I saw he used to train in Canada in TriStar Gym alongside Firas Zahabi, trainer Firas Zahabi and George St. Pierre. Were there any invitation for him to American Top Team also?
Not that I know of, I'm just the pad guy, so I wouldn't know. No, I'm just kidding. I don't hold pads too much. But if he ever wanted to, yeah, we're always looking for the next talent. But his team is doing a great job with him. It's like ATT is great for creating champions, but there's also other very good teams out there, and where he's at right now seems to be the best place for him.
Steve, you're the striking coach. Roberto Soldic is a phenomenal striker. Is there any ideal matchup for you, the most entertaining for him right now? Let's say KSW will be searching for some guy from abroad, and who is your pick for him?
I know a guy, a good old friend of mine, Paul Daly, would love that fight. I think Paul Daly is a really, really good fight for Soldic because Paul's so skilled and he's been around for a long time, but Soldic is so explosive and so powerful, and it's the old school Paul Daly versus this new phenomenal specimen. You got to have that fight, and it's a good test for Soldic, to show that he's on that. He's an incredible fighter, but Paul Daly's fought everywhere and fought the best. I think that would be the next step. I think his next big fighter, his first big one that the fans could really identify with, it would be Paul Daly is the right answer for that.
I think the fight was already the matchmakers were trying to make it happen, but it didn't happen. It was supposed to be, there were some rumors for the KSW on Wembley, so maybe after they watch this interview, maybe they'll listen to Steve Bruno and try to give some money to Paul Daly to invite him to Poland and some other country for a KSW show and do the fight.
Cool, yeah, I'll be watching if they do that.
Steve, one question again, because you are the striking coach in the American Top Team. Many people in Poland know American Top Team well because of the Polish fighters. Not only, but people like Joanna, Krzysztof Jotko, like Scott, who is fighting in Poland right now. How does your, let's say, cooperation with the Polish guys out there in the American Top Team goes? Who is your favorite? Who is the person you spend the most time on?
As far as the Polish fighters go, I've done maybe it worked 100 rounds with Gamrot before, and the name is slipping my. Scotty, who's the guy who fought UFC Australia? The other Australian guy, the other Polish guy with the blonde hair. He's kind of strong looking. Salim, yeah. Oh my God, sorry, Salim. Salim is such a good guy. The name was slipping my mind. I'm jet lagged, but Salim I've worked with a lot. But I like Gamrot, because he's so intense, you know what I mean? He's my favorite Polish fighter at the gym when he comes and visits.
Did you see him competing at the ADCC finals this year?
No, that I missed, but I know I love how nuts he is, and if someone scores a takedown on him, he's got to get them back and everything. So his mentality, I'm a big fan of Gamrot. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a double weight champion in KSW, but he didn't fight since becoming a second, gaining the second belt. There are some rumors he's maybe coming, maybe negotiating with the UFC. So, do you think this is the right place for him?
See, I don't know, man.
It's not a hard question.
No, yeah, it is, because if you've ever fought or competed, you just want to. In the beginning, you're just trying to be popular, and then somewhere in the middle, you're like, oh shit, I need to start making money. I don't know what his situation is, but if you're at the top of an organization, in your home country, he could probably push his popularity in fighting and get on a TV show, or create some products, you know what I mean? UFC is so hard, it's as skilled as a guy is, you can't really just say, oh, he'll be UFC champ if they sign him, because it's just a different feeling to fight there. I fought all over the world, and it takes a special man. I've also fought in UFC, but it takes a special man to be successful in UFC. But he's, I would like to see him, one day step up. But man, I'm so on the fence, because I always want to see these guys go into UFC, but with USADA and shit banging on your door every 2 seconds, and then I don't like how UFC handles some people and handles my friends, to be honest. And I'm not a fan of how they push a lot of like guys to have scumbag behavior, you know. So UFC is where you would go to become a household name, but at the end of the day, like if you can make more money in KSW, that's the choice. It's like popularity and a shot at superstardom versus like being like the number one guy in KSW and making some cash, you know what I mean? But just being popular here, you know, that's like the choice you'd have to make.
And that was Steve Bruno. Thank you very much, Steve, for the talk, and wish you going to be successful tomorrow's night.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.